Hello, my beautiful buds. Welcome back to my channel, Sprouts with Joy. My name is Joy, and if you like to talk about plants, you're in the right place. My husband, you might see in the background, baking bread, and my daughter is hanging out watching a show while I get this done. I have so many moss poles that I'm way behind on extending. This is what this video is going to be. I'm just going to extend as many moss poles as I can. Some of them are going to need to be repotted as well, I think. So this is one. This is my philodendron gigas. And I think that it's going to need a repot as well as a moss pole extension because, yeah. I think I'm going to start with this one. It's not the one that needs it the most, but I think it's the plant that I care about the most potentially. And it's the most daunting one, so I figured we can get that out of the way. Okay, let's move some things. I'm nervous about this, you guys. I'm also probably gonna need to move the camera. But first, I'm gonna see what the repotting situation is gonna be. I have some options of plastic and, ceramic. This is only slightly bigger though, so I'll probably end up going with plastic, but we gotta see the root system first. Also, I'm sorry, I know we're just really diving into this, but we're racing against the sunlight right now. So I'm kind of in a rush, maybe, I don't know. I have a feeling this is gonna be a little bit of a chaotic video. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous about breaking this. Ugh. I need more utensils. Okay. Here's a little bit of a better look, hopefully. Oh, this thing is so unwieldy, but I'm just gonna use a pen to try to coax it out a little bit, hopefully without breaking the plant. Oh yeah. Okay, a lot of it is rooted in the pole itself. I don't know how well you can see that. Look at that. It's pretty good looking. Okay. So yeah, first and foremost, I do want to size up the pot, and then I'll size up the pole. I should have brought my potting mat out, but I didn't feel like it. So these pots, please separate. There we go. I'm so nervous. I'm making a mess. It's fine. Everything is fine. I feel like that'll be good. I mean, I don't know how completely stable this is, but maybe I'll have to find a good cover pot for it or something, because it's a little bit crooked. And it's only gonna get worse when I add the extension. But I just didn't have a good pot to put this in. So, I don't know. This is gonna be trickier than I thought to even get a good camera angle of this. Okay, how's that? Can you see anything? Okay, now you can probably finally see it, but you can barely see me. First, I need to remove this zip tie. And I may need to remove this moss that is unfortunately a little bit dry, but it's fine. There we go. And then that is called sphagnum moss. It's going to help the plant grow. I put the moss in this pole, and then it's gonna go really, really big, and the roots grow into the moss. Isn't that cool? And then the leaves get way bigger. Okay, I didn't really have a super firm plan as to what. Oh, we're not gonna do those ones. We're gonna do this one. Just watch mommy do this one. I didn't really, admittedly, have a super firm plan on what I was gonna talk about for this video. I didn't really have time to. I was just I just desperately need to get this done. So we're just kind of gonna hang out. I mean, if you have any plant chores to do as well, honestly, go for it, because we're just doing this together. If you're new to my channel, these are just moss poles that I make kind of from scratch. They can be a little bit of a hassle. They're not as convenient as, moss poles that you can buy necessarily, but I rather like how they've been turning out. So, although this will be the tallest one yet that I've made, right here, this philodendron gigas, and it's getting pretty tall. Do you think you can come hold this for me? Now that it's as tall as it is, it's just not that stable anymore. I'm a little bit nervous. Thank you. Just like hold it like that and keep it in place. This is my first time having another person to help me with a moss pole. Oh, you have to like keep it curved. It's also tricky because this plant is like outgrowing this moss pole, so it's kind of in the way, but.
You know what this smell reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of when I would catch toads as a child.
Oh, Alphonse.
I would catch toads and I would
No.
I would keep them in a tank in my house. And I would
Oh,
feed
yeah.
them crickets.
So it smells like crickets. Yeah, that is sphagnum
No, it
moss.
smells like the toad. The, like,
Oh.
forest toad environment.
Yes. Well, maybe you had sphagnum moss, because I feel like moss is often used in enclosures for animals of that nature.
Probably those bad camera etiquette.
Oh, no, you're fine. We edit things.
Cool.
Okay, hang on. I need to just come down here and zip tie this where I'm not going to drop it. No wonder that was difficult because I missed a step. I normally like zip tie the top as well, but I didn't do that this time. Therefore, it was more difficult to install and I needed my husband's help, which I'm not complaining about. But that's why I was wondering. I was like, why is this not working the way it normally does? It's because I missed a step. All right. This is like hardcore slanting. It's making me a little bit nervous. I'm going to trim these. And by the way, oh, just so you can see what I did, I just added more zip ties to the top to kind of keep the shape. And that's the step that I missed. I did not add the zip tie to the top first before trying to extend the pole. What shall we talk about, folks? I suppose we just had some friends over for most of like the afternoon. We had lunch with them and that was good. It was good to see friends. It's kind of the reason that I'm like rushing now to get this done because I was planning on kind of using most of the afternoon to film this, but I had friends come over instead, which, you know, it was a little bit last minute. So that's kind of my day. Honestly, was mostly hanging out with friends. And now we're doing this. I love friends, obviously. They're great. Although I am an introvert. At a certain point, I'm like, all right, I'm ready. At a certain point, I'm ready to just kind of be with my plants, you know? And I don't know, are any of you guys like that? Like, you love your friends, but at a certain point, you're like, all right, I'm ready to just kind of spend time with my plants, doing things and reading and being peaceful rather than like, I don't know, sometimes it's a little bit exhausting to be talking for hours on end. Like it drains me. I think it drains me faster than like my husband because my husband's more of an extrovert. So I'm always like caught in that weird limbo of I don't want to tell them to leave because I love them, but I also am like, I'm getting tired. I'm fading fast and all I want to do is spend time with my plants now. Is that selfish? I don't know. Sometimes I feel guilty about that, but you'll have to let me know if you feel the same way sometimes. On another note, I have been reading so much this month, like this past month, and I've been loving every minute of it. So I just finished the Inheritance cycle recently. Like I finished Inheritance, like the last book in the series. And that's like the Aragon series, if you don't know, which I personally really, really enjoyed it a lot. Oh, did you turn on the light?
Yeah.
Okay, can you please turn off the light for me? Because I like the sunlight. That was a little bit blinding. I'm planning to read Murtagh, which is like the most recent kind of book in that universe that has been written. But before I do that, I have been kind of reading a couple of palette cleanser books to, you know, because I've just been reading the Aragon books that's like 4 books in a row and they're really long books. So that's been like my world recently. I'm almost done with Interview with the Vampire and I'm also listening to an audiobook of the classic Rebecca. So I've been kind of reading those 2 in tandem this week and that's been really honestly kind of fun to just switch it up a little bit, but I am actually really looking forward to reading Murtagh. All right, I'm gonna add plant Velcro. Well, this leaf on the gigas was kind of like trying to turn around and hopefully this will also help with, you know, keeping it with sizing up more because it kind of stopped sizing up a little bit. I will also water all of these plants in at the end of the video because I want to keep going while I can with the actual moss pole extensions. But I will say I'm a little bit nervous about the stability of this. I definitely might need to like put it in a cache pot because I'm I'm nervous. All right, the next one I think is also going to be a repot situation, potentially. Well, maybe not. Maybe, I don't know. This is my Philodendron Splendid, which I absolutely love, but it is far outgrown its pole. And if I want it to keep sizing up, I've got to be more diligent about adding onto the moss pole. Although I will say that this is a super fast grower. And so that's part of the reason that I haven't really kept up with it, is that it's just grown really, really quickly. And I just haven't had the time to like increase the size. Let's see. But right now I'm just looking, I'm trying to discern if I think that this like needs to be repotted down here. I mean, it's kind of an absurdly long moss pole for the size of pot that it is. But I'm not seeing, it doesn't look like it's totally root bound or anything. So I think it actually might be okay to just do an extension. So let's do another moss pole extension. That's what we're here for. Man, I'm making such a mess. I like cleaned the house earlier too. I should have just done this and then cleaned the house. I wanted it to be clean for the guests that came over. So I guess that was a good enough reason. So we're doing this again. If you are not familiar with these moss poles that I do, I'll try to link some videos where I kind of explain the process more, but I've explained it like so many times on my channel at this point that I'm not really interested in like rehashing it again, because I also don't want to bore the people that already know how it works. But I mean, it's honestly very easy once you kind of know what you're doing. Although I do need to zip tie it, this was the step that I missed. Oh, this is so good. I'm so happy to finally be doing this, you guys. I have been feeling a little bit of anxiety recently surrounding my plants and like them getting bigger and bigger and bigger and not really knowing where in the long term they're gonna wind up going or how I'm gonna handle having big plants. Because it's such a hard tension, because on the one hand, I really want my plants to get big. I want them to thrive. I want to have huge leaves, but I'm just kind of limited on how many plants I can actually have be like big in my collection, and all of them are gonna eventually get big. So I've just been feeling that tension recently, and I'm like, no, I just want to have plants and I want them to grow and I want to not have to worry about that. But it comes with the hobby, unfortunately. Like, space is absolutely a huge limiting factor, and it's not as fun, but it's just real. And it's like, you want plants to get big, but not too big. I'm so sorry. I feel like this video is honestly all over the place. And that's because I feel all over the place. I wish I had things more together and I was more relaxed, but this is just my current state of mind. I guess I'm just being honest. Like, I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling like my brain is going a million miles an hour and I can't think straight. I'm just doing my best. I feel like I can't even like look in the camera. I keep looking at the viewfinder for some reason. I'm like, what is wrong with me today? But again, this needs to get done. And I wanted to share it with you guys too. I personally really like it when YouTubers like genuinely show their personality and it doesn't feel like just like a front or like a performance. It's a little bit nerve-wracking, to be honest. This is very much just free flow thought for me. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to kind of just put yourself out there to the world to face any sort of criticism. And if you're just being you, like your raw self, what people are criticizing is not always necessarily like how you do it or like the means or whatever. It's often like they're criticizing you as a person and your personality and your thoughts and what you're bringing to the table, your style, I don't know. And yeah, there's something really, really, really vulnerable to that. So sometimes I do think, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this YouTube thing if it's gonna be this like vulnerable? But at the same time, I'm like, I also love it. I actually really love like the art of filming and editing videos. I love the expression element. I love the community element. So I don't know. All right, well, that's good. I think that's good. It's got a whole lot more room to grow, so that's very, very nice. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm so disheveled. Again, we're keeping it real today, guys. This is a real day. I don't know, I'm probably overreacting and it's probably not as bad as I'm like feeling like it is. I don't know. Sometimes just the perception that you have of the way that things are going is just not accurate. I think I'm a chronic overthinker. I think part of it is I'm just so tired too. I can't really think straight, guys. All right, I'm gonna enjoy my husband's bread that he just baked. So 1 second. This is also blackberry jam. This is really good. that's enough of that. We're running out of sunlight as I speak, and so I'm gonna have to turn on the atrocious overhead lighting. So I'm gonna try and move a little bit quicker. Okay. So this is another one. This is my philodendron varicosum. This one's probably actually the most egregious because, excuse me, girl, I am just slacking. I'm so slacking. I am really curious about the root system, I will say, because it's been in a greenhouse cabinet. And I feel like the root systems in the greenhouse cabinet go a little bit harder than the rest of the plants in my collection. Obviously, they have like ideal conditions. Am I gonna need to add 2 extensions to this? I might, but then it won't fit in my greenhouse cabinet, and I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do about that because varicosum are notorious for really needing their humidity being up. At least that's what I've heard from other people. So, okay, I do wanna look at the root system. Again, if it doesn't need it, I don't think I'm gonna change this one out. But if it does, I wanna be attentive to that because I've noticed that this varicosum detests drying out. Like if it dries out, oh, it throws a tantrum, it loses leaves, like it is so upset. Okay, well, I think that that's probably ready for a repot. I don't know how well you can see that, but like it's got lots of roots in there. My suspicion, I think, was fairly correct. I mean, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but the roots are actually quite fine. Maybe I'm just used to anthurium roots at this point, but this seems quite fine to me. So I'm gonna go downstairs to the basement and I'm gonna go see if I can find a pot that will be good for this. This is gonna be my best option, which like I like the fact that it's a clear plastic pot. The ones that I bought off of Amazon are like, they're a little bit more flimsy and they're very lightweight, which is a little bit less ideal for plants that are with like moss poles because actually, will this be a big enough size? Hang on, let me see. This actually might work. Actually, yes. Okay, it's only about 1 inch bigger, but that'll do. I will accept that. Sorry. I forgot that I had this pot, but I literally brought it and set it out for repotting today. I don't know why I forgot about it, but anyways. Yeah, what I was saying is just that this was less ideal for my moss pole plants, which I'm realizing with the philodendron gigas that I just potted into one of those. So that's unfortunate because I really do enjoy having my plants be in clear vessels and pots. I like seeing the roots. It makes watering so much easier. If you haven't gotten on that train, I would highly encourage you to just try it out. Like, you don't have to put all your plants in it if you don't like the aesthetic of it, but like try it out for your plants that you always have a hard time knowing like when to water them, or the ones that are a little bit more tricky or that tend to get root rot more easily. Like, trust me, it's a game changer. I feel like it makes plant care so nice. I love the look of this pottery and I'm very happy to have it. So, you know, I don't want to complain too much. Okay, so that's kind of a quick repotting, but it's repotted. But now I need to do some extending. I like pre-cut these, by the way, and added holes to them just to try to make the process go faster. That is my least favorite part to making these moss poles, is like putting in the holes with the hole puncher. That's a little bit annoying, but let's see, what about life lately? I feel like life lately has been good. I mean, there's really not much to complain about. Like, I could complain, I could choose to complain. There's always something that you can find to complain about. I don't know. The reality of it is that I have been really blessed, you know, and I don't want to take anything that I have for granted. I know there's a lot of facets of my life that people would really love to have. A lot of people want families. A lot of people want happy marriages and like relative financial stability. We can pay our bills, and like I feel really, really blessed and humbled that that's the case. Although it's not without its stressors. I was talking to my husband about this. Like, you know, I feel like the stresses that we've been feeling are so self-inflicted. A lot of things that we get stressed and anxious about are things that, you know, people 100 years ago were not getting stressed and anxious about, probably. We've just created so many problems for ourselves. And I'm trying to remember what specifically I was thinking of when I was telling that to my husband. Maybe honestly like social media and like some of the societal pressures that we place ourselves, that we like put on ourselves to be, and like even hustle culture. Like, I think I heard a statistic, maybe back in like 1920, the average person got like over 9 hours of sleep every night. But nowadays, the average person gets like 6 hours of sleep a night. Don't quote me on that, but like that's a statistic that I heard recently. And I should clarify, average person in the US, I think. And so it's like, we have more conveniences. Like we have the internet. We have all of this technology that should be making life easier and more relaxing. Like we have conveniences that people didn't have 100 years ago. And yet we're over here overworking ourselves to the point of exhaustion. Like why are we like this? And maybe it's our fault, maybe it's not, maybe it's just big old capital S society. Maybe it's expectations, maybe it's survival. It's one really random thing I've been thinking about lately where I'm like, I shouldn't have anything to complain about. And yet I'm like constantly feeling stressed out. That could also be that I have 2 toddlers and that we probably overcommitted to things in life and like put too much on our schedules and too much pressure to like fulfill things. Like that could also be a big part of it, you know? Why do we do this to ourselves? That's my thought. Like why can't we just rest? Like, is that part of the human condition? This is just me overthinking life. So welcome to me just verbally processing everything. Okay, I think it might be time for me to turn on the light, unfortunately. I know it's gonna burn. Close your eyes. Ah, that's so gross. Even my eyes are burning. That's awful. Hang on, we do have a dimmer. Let me see if I can dim the lights a little bit. Is that a little bit better? I know it's gonna be so orange and gross. And editing me is gonna be like, why didn't you pull out your actual filming lights, Joy? Why were you lazy? I'm gonna be like, I'm not lazy. I have 2 toddlers and I'm trying to get this done. I'm gonna just finish filling this up with moss and I'm gonna stop talking so that I can do that really quickly and move on to the next plant. All right, I should probably add another pole to this, but I think I want to move on and like share the love with some of my other plants before I add another pole to this, just because I'm low on time. And I also am hesitant to add another pole because that would officially mean that I can't put this in the cabinet anymore because it'll be too big. So it's the next day. Yesterday, my son woke up from his nap and it all just evolved from there and there was no way that I could film anymore. So we're just gonna film now. And I'm actually gonna be a whole lot more ambitious this time because both my kids are asleep and I also pre-made all these moss poles. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think I have 7. Some of them will be extensions, like finishing off the extension journey that I started yesterday. But I also went ahead and grabbed some plants from my prop box that I wanted to put onto moss poles. And now that it's February, I'm feeling a little bit more cozy and comfortable with repotting the plants. It's been sunny outside and I'm like, you know what? Let's go for it. Let's pot up some plants. I already pre-made a bunch of poles. Let's do it. I'm actually gonna lay out a potting mat, unlike what I did yesterday, because I ended up making a big fat mess yesterday. And also, I always say that I'm gonna get a new potting mat because I'm not super fond of this one, and yet I never do. Stay tuned. Maybe someday I'll actually get like a nice potting mat that is, you know, this is just kind of like a tarp, and it's fine, but it doesn't really hold its shape. Okay, here's the remainder of my supplies in more pots. Let's start with this. This is my Philodendron Audubonense. It used to be much, much bigger than this, and it was on a moss pole that like I wasn't able to extend. I like had bought it that way. So when it outgrew the moss pole, I decided to chop it up, which part of me kind of regrets sometimes. I'm like, man, what would this plant look like if I had not gone ahead and chopped it up? Maybe it would be nicer, but alas. I did chop it up and I have a lot of Philodendron Audubonense babies. This is one of them. This is the one that I think I'm gonna try to make my main plant because it's the only one that's actually on a proper moss pole. But like none of them are really sizing up as nicely as I would like them to. This one actually does have a new leaf coming in, which like that's positive, but it's not looking like it's gonna be a really big leaf. Although to be fair, I just did not keep up with the moss pole extensions as would be necessary if I actually wanted this to size up properly. So, you know, it's fine. It's just not as ideal. Actually, I think I want to add some holes in here So let me go grab that hole punch. I don't want to lose this much pole, you know what I mean? Like, I put the top holes down so low. I'd rather than be like here. This is my little handy dandy hole punch, although it's a little bit broken. Like the spring keeps on coming loose and it's very annoying. And then on this side, ouch, gosh, that pinched me. That's not fun. You guys know the drill by this point, right? I almost hurt that poor little leaf. Again, don't be like me. Don't wait to add in your moss poles because it's gonna end up being very annoying when your plant is in the way. Don't wait to the last minute. I also think that like this newest leaf is proof. It's like, it's just not as effective. It's like, why even do moss poles if you're not going to keep up with extending them? Then the leaves just kind of start sizing back down. It's like, no, I do need to get better at keeping up with the extensions and like the moss pole maintenance. It's like one of the things that I procrastinate in my plant care. Thankfully, I'm usually pretty good about like watering my plants, but I feel like fertilizing and moss pole extensions are like my big weaknesses. But I don't know, everyone kind of has their thing, I think, of the thing that they procrastinate, be it like, oh, some people just really don't like treating pests. Some people don't like watering and they like tend to procrastinate that. I mean, everyone has their thing that they just like they're just not as fond of doing it, and that's fine. Like, I think that we all have it. We all have things that we don't like to do. So I don't know, what's your least favorite part of plant care? Like what's something that you love and then something that you don't like? I mean, maybe there's some people that love every single facet of plant care, but that's like a little bit less realistic. I don't know. I certainly don't like every single facet of plant care all of the time. Sometimes there are just certain things that don't jive with or you're just not in the mood to do. As much as you like love having plants and having them grow or propagating them or whatever. Yeah, keeping up with certain things can be a little bit less convenient, or like you're not always motivated to do it, even if you love it. But I don't think that you should feel guilty for that. I think that's a very normal part of being a plant parent, or honestly any hobby. Like there are things that I think everyone struggles with in most hobbies. I'm so happy that the sun is finally out. It's been out the last few days and that just makes me feel like spring is coming. And I know like there's like such a thing as false spring. Like this poor little Florida girl over here, I get my hopes up every time and then I get disappointed when, you know, it was really nice and sunny for a few days. The temps were up, you know, in the 40s and 50s. Then, you know, in the following week it's
Doom and gloom again.
Like I know that happens, but like every year I just can't help it. I can't help but feel more hopeful. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being hopeful. I guess the one downside is just that it leads to disappointment if you start to expect that the weather will go one way and then it doesn't. And I don't mind the snow. I actually rather like the snow. The thing that kills me is the lack of sunlight. I'm just a glorified plant. That's all I am. Here is my Uppbeat extension, and actually I'm really excited to see how this grows now that it has more support, and it has started rooting into the pole already on several spots. So I don't know if you can actually see it, but trust me, it is rooting into the pole, which is fantastic. But I just want it to yield bigger leaves. This next one is my philodendron painted lady, which is also outgrowing the pole and also gave me a really small leaf. And I'm like, dang it, this is all my fault. Do you need a repot though? I will say, I think that she might need a repot. Maybe I'll pot her directly into this pot because it does have a drainage hole. I've just been kind of using it for stability and it's slightly bigger. So actually, that's perfect. That's actually perfect. I'm gonna do that. But yeah, man, suffice it to say, I'm feeling zen right now. I know yesterday I feel like I was super flustered, and that was mainly because I felt like I was running out of time, which I was. But today I am actually feeling so good now that like my kids are in bed and it's peaceful and sunny. Actually, most of the root system I think is like in the moss pole. I don't know if that's the right move. I think I am gonna keep it in here. I don't want to risk this rotting on me. That would be most unfortunate. It doesn't need it. I totally thought that it did, but it doesn't need it. It's just like, this is so, it's such a tiny pot for the plant. Have you fared the winter well? Like, how are you doing? Have you survived? Speaking of, you know, winter and shifting seasons, like, how are you? Let's check in. I hope that you're doing well. And maybe this will provide some solace for you, honestly, like seeing a video where there's sunlight and plants and all that. I mean, I hope that this is a good experience for you. Well, that was a fruitless endeavor. Let's move on to what I was actually intending to initially do, which is the pole extension. Man, this is also like so far down. What was I thinking? Let's see. I think maybe I was thinking like I was wanting to give it more stability or something, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. That's probably fine. Also, you guys, I'm really excited. So as of yesterday, I was telling you about books I was reading. I don't know how far along I got in telling you about the books I was reading and that sort of thing, because admittedly, yesterday was a little bit chaotic and I was interrupted a lot. And I probably cut out a lot of stuff, but I had to start over what I was saying so many times just because I was being constantly interrupted by my daughter. She was like asking for things, even though my husband was right there to help her. But of course she needed to come ask mommy. So it's fine. But I was just like, I cannot complete a single sentence. So I started talking about books. And I was saying how I had finished the inheritance cycle and was waiting to start Murtagh. And so last night I finished Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice. And there's like a whole Vampire Chronicles. There's like a whole series that I was kind of looking into. I don't know for sure if I'm like attached enough to the content to like read the entire series. I might read a couple of like the best books in the series, but like I don't know that I'll read all of it. But anyway, so I finished the Interview with a Vampire, and then I was like, you know, I'm gonna start Murtagh, which is like the next newest book that takes place in Alagasia, which is the continent or like world of Aragon. And let me tell you, I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but I'm already absolutely loving Murtagh. Like I've only read like the first 2 chapters. I'm obsessed with it. I love it, and I love the character of Murtagh. So I am very excited to make that kind of my world again. Honestly, like I wanted to have a palate cleanser moment, hence why I kind of paused and read a different book, or like actually started 2 different books. And I'm still going through Rebecca on audiobook, but man, I am so excited to be back in the world of Aragon. I personally really like it a lot. I think I just really love dragons and I love fantasy settings like that. So I don't know, I'm just super into it. The more you get to know me, the more that you'll realize I'm a complete and total nerd. I love fantasy stuff. I'm probably gonna add some more moss, actually. But this is also looking good and it's very satisfying. I'm so glad that we're making progress on this. This is one of those things that was just hanging over my head, you guys. I just felt so bad that I was not keeping up with these moss poles, but I also was like low on supplies too, and I just didn't feel like buying more moss pole supplies. Actually, I'm gonna need to buy like more sphagnum moss, because this is like all of the moss that I own right now, which is kind of a lot, but I feel like it goes pretty quickly if you have a lot of moss poles and you're constantly adding moss to poles. Speaking of which, before I forget, hang on, right after this, I need to run and grab some poles and top off the moss. Like they're not ready to be extended, but the moss needs to be topped off. So I'll also do that really, really quickly, because I kept on telling myself, okay, Joy, you need to remember to top off the moss. And then I keep on forgetting to top off the moss. So we're not going to forget. We're going to go do it right now while I'm thinking about it. All right, that's secure enough. I'm going to have to move that plant Velcro eventually, but I'll leave it there for now just to train it, you know? Isn't she pretty? I love Philodendron Painted Lady. Oh, before I forget as well, I also need to trim these. It looks a little bit silly without that being trimmed. Okay, these are the plants that need topping off. Honestly, I could even probably extend this one, but I just didn't make enough moss poles for that. But this is my Philodendron Silver Sword, which I've had the hardest time sizing up, by the way. Like, to be fair, I'm not keeping up with it perfectly, but I mean, I feel like the leaves should have gone up in size at least a little bit by now, right? Just by the fact that it has support, because oftentimes philodendron will just size up even without a moss pole necessarily. Like even if you stake them, the leaves will gradually increase in size a little bit, even if it's not perfectly, but this one is not having it at all, I feel like, which is a little bit
annoying, but it's fine.
It'll do what it wants to do. Okay, so here's that. I really just topped off the moss. I hope that you guys can see what I'm doing. I feel like the sunlight is not perfectly on me, like it's almost more behind me, so I'm hoping it's not too backlit for you guys. But I'm using my wide angle lens, so I have the viewfinder, but it's a little bit harder to see everything because everything looks smaller when I use the wide angle lens. It's helpful, but it's also not as easy to see what's happening. Okay, well, that's also that. And hang on, I'm gonna use some plant Velcro. I think it'll appreciate being held in place. I do have quite a bit of Pink Princess still that I've been hanging on to and kind of waiting to see what the variegation is gonna end up looking like. I would love to one day have like a Pink Princess with super killer variegation. Like this one's kind of okay. I don't know, you can't really see that, it looks so dark. There's a handful of leaves here that look kind of okay, but most of the leaves are very iffy. Honestly, like this one is really lackluster, you know? So I do have quite a few Pink Princesses that I'm just growing out, cultivating, and maybe I will chop up the ones with like the best variegation, the ones with the best leaves, and hope that that will kind of cultivate some better looking plants with better variegation. I'm not being super specific about it, but it's something that I'm kind of vaguely working on. Okay, this is my philodendron Jose Buono, which, if I'm being completely honest, okay, this has grown really, really well. Just objectively speaking, as a plant, man, this sun is really like, I mean, I love it, but it's also making it hard to see things. But okay, this philodendron Jose Buono has grown really well. It's rooted into the pole. That's all good, but you're all gonna know what I'm gonna say, right? Where's the variegation? I mean, I bought this knowing that it was low variegation, but I foolishly was just really hoping that it would magically become more variegated in my care, and it is not, like, at all. So yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. Like, it's grown well, but if I'm being honest, if I were to like make a video or a list about plants that have been disappointing or like plants that I regret buying, I mean, I'd have to think about it, but I'm pretty sure this would be on that list. So honestly, let me know if you want to see a video like that. I don't know. It's a little bit of a downer of a video, but it's also realistic. And I'm sure that some of you guys have regretted purchasing certain plants just for one reason or another. But yeah, I will say, like, look at how thick this stem is getting. Like, look at that. It's really chonky. It's grown super vigorously, like it's an easy plant. Oh my goodness. I definitely should have done this sooner because it is not wanting to scooch over. Okay. Ouch. Every time it like hurts me. I currently have Olivia Rodrigo stuck in my head. You think that you're perfect and change for no one. Do, 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 do. There is a nice new leaf coming in. If you can see that. Oh, it's gonna be a nice thick one. I'm just gonna train you to look the other way. All right, I mean, this definitely looks a little bit awkward. Like, look, I do feel like it looked better before, but it'll probably just have to sort itself out. Why don't you go into the light? Is that better? I don't know. That's the one downside. Like, I always want to film with like there being a lot of light because I think it's pretty, but then sometimes it's not in the right spot and the sun is just constantly moving. You can't keep up with it and make it look nice. Okay, next is going to be fun. I have a bunch of plants that I actually need to pot up. They're propagations, part of trades, and like plants that I bought. I think there's 4 total. So hopefully I can get to them all. But here they are. Look at them. They're so happy. So this is a philodendron fuzzy petiole that I propagated quite a while ago. And I'm not 100% confident that it's fully rooted, but we're gonna check and see. And I want to put this up on a moss pole and see if it grows any nicer for me, because at present, the parent plant that I have is just like not looking good at all. It just scrambles around and it looks a little bit ick. So we're gonna try to put this on a moss pole. Obviously, all these are gonna go on a moss pole. I'm slightly undecided. This is a philodendron halo micans, and it's cute. I was thinking about having it grow trailing for a little bit, but now that I've had it kind of grow more trailing, I've like let it kind of do its thing in the prop box. I don't know if I'm really into it, honestly. Even if I were to pot them together, I just don't know that I like the look of these leaves as they are now. Like I'd rather try and size them up a little bit. So we're gonna see, we're gonna try a moss pole. I would usually prefer to start the moss poles like sooner than this, because I feel like this has grown considerably already at this point. So I don't know how much it would benefit at this point. Honestly, I'm halfway tempted to chop off some of these lower leaves and like pot it lower down in the pot, but I don't know. We're gonna have to see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. This is a philodendron El Choco red that I got from my friend Natalie in a plant trade, and it's been doing pretty well in the prop box. I'm honestly a little bit nervous about transitioning it out of the prop box, so wish me luck. Pray for me. This right here is a Syngonium macrophyllum, also from Natalie, and I think that this would just look really nice on a moss pole, especially as the leaves get bigger. It'll look really nice. I don't know which one I want to begin with, to be honest. I really don't know. I did grab a bunch of pots. I guess let's just take a look at the roots. We're just gonna start off with El Choco red. I feel like it has like the least amount going on, so maybe it'll be the most straightforward. I don't know, but let's look at these roots, shall we? I did like just water these, so they're a little bit wet. And then I decided after watering them, oh, maybe I should actually pot these up and make it a part of the video. So that's why. Otherwise I would have let them be a little bit more dry. I feel like that makes the sphagnum moss just a little bit easier to remove if they're slightly dry. Like not completely dry, but like, you know, not sopping wet either. So some of these roots definitely did rot from shock. So honestly, it might not be the move to pot this up. I don't know. I don't know yet. I don't know. I haven't decided. We'll have to see, because definitely I'm seeing some of these roots are a little bit rotted, that's for sure. I think that most of the roots that came with the plant originally ended up dying off because of shock during shipping. Like, you don't know, during the shipping process, it just, the plants did not take it well, unfortunately, which totally happens sometimes. But yeah, I'm just kind of, a lot of those original roots definitely did rot off eventually. And so this is all we really have to work with. This is like the new growth. So honestly, I think I'm gonna pass on potting this up. I think we'll give it some fresh moss. I'm gonna chop off all of these rotted roots, but obviously there's also some healthy roots, so like that's good. Let me sanitize these scissors really quick. I'll be right back. I'll chop off the icky roots, put it in a vessel with fresh moss, and I'll put it back in my prop box. So let's do that. Some people have asked me how I handle root rot, and honestly, I mean, you can use hydrogen peroxide. You can trim them away and then like dip the whole plant in like a mixture of hydrogen peroxide and water to try to delete, I don't know why I said delete, kill all the bacteria, which like, yeah, you can absolutely, that is one possible thing that you can do. Honestly, I usually just take sanitized scissors and I just chop away any of the dead roots. I just like cut them all off because like, you know, those roots aren't coming back. I just chop away any of the dead roots, keep the roots that are alive. Honestly, like this node down here, this whole node looks like it's rotted, but the rest, there's another node up here that's not rotted. So I'm just gonna chop off the rotted node and start there. I could maybe chop off more than that, but it does look like there's a growth point down here. And this doesn't look like totally dead to me. And there's a whole node right here that's also growing and is fine. Honestly, That's pretty much the extent of what I usually do. You can scrape it, I guess. Yeah, and you can use hydrogen peroxide, but I don't always do that. I don't always feel like it's necessary. Sometimes I'm afraid that it'll like kind of stress the plant out a little bit. And especially if it's a more sensitive plant, maybe they won't like that. Then I just put it in either water or fresh sphagnum moss that like this I'm not going to use because it has rotted roots in it. I will set it aside, boil it later to sanitize it. But for this, I'm going to want to get like a new vessel and I'll put fresh sphagnum moss in there. So let me find a new vessel. I forgot to grab one. This is just an old jar and I like to use transparent vessels whenever possible just so that I can see what's going on. So yeah, I'm just going to reroot this. I'm not going to worry about adding it on a pole yet. It needs more time in the prop box and my poles don't fit in my prop boxes, unfortunately. But that's totally fine. I don't pack it in too much because it needs room to breathe. I also want it to be stable in there, so trying to find that balance. And this moss is already damp. And hopefully it'll reroot nicely. Ta-da. All right, good. Let's check on the Syngonium. This was in the same trade along with that El Choco Red, although these roots are looking a lot healthier. So I will remove the moss just so I can get a pretty decent look at the roots, but I don't even need to remove all of them because I'll probably kind of plant this directly into the moss pole, which is already moss, you know? But yeah, look at all those roots. Okay, now this looks healthy. These are nice and good and juicy. I'm actually really excited to have a Syngonium macrophyllum. Most of the Syngoniums I've ever had in my collection have been like the podophyllum varieties. I do have an erythrophyllum, which I really love, but I've found that most of the Syngonium podophyllum, I'm kind of over the way that they grow. I just don't prefer them, which is unfortunate, and maybe I'll find a way to grow them that I actually like them, but I've just realized that they're not entirely for me. However, like the macrophyllum, this is like the frosted heart, also the chia pence. I actually really like how these leaves are and like its growth pattern is a little bit nicer to me. And I feel like they're easier to put on a moss pole because they have like thicker stems. They don't scramble quite as much as the podophyllum varieties. I don't know, I feel like this is gonna be really promising, you guys. I'm really excited to see this grow on a moss pole and see how it does. And I'm really happy that this was finally ready to put on a pole. Do I know where I'm gonna put this long term? Absolutely not. I have no idea. I have some ideas. I can move some plants around if I need to. So that's that so far. Just to keep it snug against the sphagnum moss, help it realize, hey, you've got something here that you can grow on. And I'm gonna need another zip tie up here, actually. Now for the philodendron fuzzy petiole, I'm gonna check out these roots. I really don't know what to expect for this. I don't know if it's gonna be happy or not, but it seems like, I mean, this is all together, so I don't know. I really don't know if this is well rooted. It was hard to tell. Like all this moss is very stuck together. I mean, there are roots, but it's not as many as I would have hoped. Oh, and this one is like almost not rooted at all. Look at that. What the heck? And yet it did give me some new growth up here. Honestly, I'd be halfway tempted to just chop it right here and kind of start rooting it from there. Oh, I don't know. This is more of an experimental plant. So part of me just wants to pot it into the soil, even though I don't feel like the root system, I mean, this is passable. Obviously this, if I chop it right now, it's not gonna be rooted at all. But part of me kind of wants to take that chance and pot it in the soil because I do have a whole nother philodendron fuzzy petiole plant like that I can chop from. Like I can take the risk if I want to just go directly to the pole. So I don't know. I think I might just try that because why not? I don't have anything to lose except for like these two cuttings. But again, I have a whole nother philodendron fuzzy petiole plant that I can work from. I'm gonna sanitize these scissors so that I can chop this and then we're gonna just go for it. All right, I'm just gonna chop here because I don't know. Again, it should root from here. And I don't know that I would necessarily advise doing this, just like potting it up without any roots, like directly into soil. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I would recommend it per se, if I'm being honest, but like, again, I'm just kind of feeling like taking a risk today and maybe it'll be totally fine. I do know of a lot of people that kind of pot plants up directly into soil and they do have a lot of success with that. So I don't know. I'm feeling impatient. I guess is part of it too. I'm just like, I just want to get this plant potted up and I thought it was ready. And it seems like it's not exactly as ready as I thought, but we're just gonna do it anyways. The trickiest part is holding it perfectly into place, you know? But I actually think that this plant might finally grow nicely for me. It'll grow nicely when I actually give it some support and guidance, right? This is definitely not one of those plants that like, if you just let it grow by itself, it's gonna look nice. In my experience, that hasn't really been the case. It wants to get a little bit unruly, and they're often just sold that way. That's how it was sold to me. It was already just super unruly plant, and that kind of discouraged me from even trying to rein it in, and that's why I'm starting over. These leaves are definitely a little bit scrunched, which is less ideal, but like I'm kind of anticipating that it'll grow out and up and hopefully be okay with the arrangement. I'm also open to this just being a huge mistake, you know, but again, I feel like it can only really go up from where it's currently at and a little bit exasperated with it. So it's like, honestly, wherever it goes is an improvement. Whereas I've noticed the plants I'm more nervous about are the plants that like are already doing really well and I don't want to screw it up and make them unwell. Well, I am satisfied enough with that. Okay, all right, I think this is the last one, actually. Look at that. Oh, this one's also, I think, going to be the most challenging one, honestly. But let's just see how the roots are. We're just going to start and see what's happening. I just really hope that the roots are healthy, honestly. This one was also shipped to me from Botanica's. I got a really good deal on it. Okay, the roots look okay. Not bad. I'm not upset at that. I am going to remove a couple of leaves that are like lower leaves that are looking kind of crispy anyways, because I want to pot this up really low into the pot and kind of let all of these empty nodes root up. And then right here, what do we got going on? I mean, yeah, this one I can also just kind of pot up really, really low. So that's that. And then I do have another one that's in soil technically. That's barely rooted at all. Yikes. But it'll have to do. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. I feel like these are not growing very nicely for me. I think it's gonna go in here. Oh my gosh, I have dirt all over me. So you can see I'm kind of potting this up very deeply. Which way does this want to go? I feel like it's growing every which way. This is going to be kind of a very full moss pole, but that's assuming that everything survives. All right, let's add the moss. So far, I feel like it's kind of working decently well. But it's such a delicate plant. It's a little bit harder to work with. This is kind of what we're working with. And the cash po. That's halfway decent. I'm definitely happier with it growing this way than like what it was before. So I don't know, we'll have to see how it grows in, because I do feel like it's often quite awkward until the plant kind of adapts to this growing pattern. That's pretty nice. And I think I can get behind that. Well, that's everything that I had to go on polls that I know of. I might be missing a couple, but I think that that's like pretty much all of them. So I'm gonna clean up and water these plants in. So this is what I've accomplished in the last couple of days. That's a lot of moss poles. I don't think that this is every pole in my collection, but like this is a big chunk of them. All right, let's see. How many did we even do? Like about 9, maybe 10 if you're counting the plant that I didn't pot up, but that I trimmed the roots. I mean, I'm pretty proud of that. I'm glad that we sorted this out. I will say, I do want to show you something that I did with the philodendron gigas. I did put it in this terracotta kind of, I guess, cash po. It's acting as a cash po to give me some more weight on the bottom. It's a cracked terracotta cash po, so like I couldn't use it to like actually pot things into, but I figured this will actually be like a nice way to use that without just throwing it out. I suppose I could also try to glue it back together, but I'm not 100% confident that that would work well because of all the moisture that it would be encountering like on a daily basis. But anyway, I also added 2 bamboo stakes on either side, and I used plant velcro to kind of secure it as a unit. So I do think that that gives it like a little bit more stability, but I'm gonna have to be super careful when I'm moving this thing, maneuvering it around, because it is very top heavy and it is just heavy in general, especially like right after watering it. Oh my goodness. I'm a little bit nervous about this one. I hope that it like stays secure and good, but I'm pretty happy with it. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video, even with it
being a little bit chaotic at times.
But I feel like I accomplished a lot and I'm pretty proud of that. So if you did like this video, please feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for my channel, and I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed day. Bye-bye!